How you doing all? Right. Bodywork's progressing. Front clip symmetry was a bit of a pain. So yeah, unfortunately. Front's okay, but the kind of bulk defined arch we wanted to put here, because it was very smooth before, off, didn't look very muscular, so we're kind of basically putting a bit more of a defined shape to the arch here. The clay parts that we made for it, we took a splash mold off the clay and then we made a fiberglass part. We've bonded it on, and I start putting a spline across the both of them, or a profile gauge, and yeah, I wasn't happy. So we're back to good old tons of filler. Boo. Yes, clay's a lot easier to work with, but clay cracks, and I don't want it cracking when I basically mold the car and then turn the click upside down. So yes. Anyway, nose is all glued on. Two sort of appendages are added. We just got to shape it off. The shape of the nose is pretty simple. It's just trimming. You can tell by the temporary glue here. We've just put the side plates on. Need to have a negative mold release, so every one of those particular surfaces is slightly canted to allow the mold to come apart. Just make a single piece, then it makes it a lot easier. So basically the majority, the center of that will just become one piece. We'll have probably a split line across the front here, split lines around the arches, possibly a split line all the way across the side there, but for the moment, oh yes, we'll have to have a split line here because of the side features. Now they go underneath, so we'll have to have a split line across here as well. Yeah, so nose on, reprofiling this side to match the other. As much as I want this radius here, which is not too dissimilar to the radius here, when you are starting from scratch, I'm basically doing a filler like I would have done in clay. You start off with a defined, perfect straight line, or not straight line, but the line you want. You make it a hard line, so you start off with one surface. So I filled this surface until it now becomes not a perfect spline, but almost a near perfect spline. Right, okay, explain spline, Clive, because they're not going to know what the hell that means, or somebody won't. Where's my excuse me for a minute. I've took the tool off, haven't I? We got it in here somewhere. Let me have a look. Sorry about this. It's kind of massively unprepared, rather unprofessional. Okay, let's grab another one. Delve into the clay tools. Yes, these are all the tools that I use for clay. These are my steel pieces. Yeah. Let's grab one out flat. Come on. Oh, I know it is. Aha! There it is. Just want to mix and filler. God forbid I've used this for filler. Yeah, don't tell Barry. Anyway, so if you can imagine, when you bend a flat surface, it should make a nice curved shape. There shouldn't be any dips at all in that. So when you pull that across there shouldn't be any hollows. So a spline is basically a natural curve you can get without any sort of wavy parts. So once you've got this as a nice spline you want, and once it's coming out and sort of going nowhere, once you get that surface that's where you want it, the radius would technically start where I put the tape line. So I've lasered down here. It has a slight lean in because the wheel arch has a slight lean in, so it kind of sympathetic to the wheel camber. And as this is, so this is slightly leaned in where the wheel is. You do a surface to here. You then tape and sort of eye up the tape line. Once you've got that tape line, then you've got basically an outside surface edge that you know not to file back. Doing filler Obviously the best thing for doing filler fast is like surf forms. They're basically huge rasps, but realistically they're great for pulling filler off in larger quantities. God, you wouldn't want to sand, because obviously now I've got to do the surface there on this side, but obviously this is not going to be a reasonably nice flat. It's going to be a double compound curving away from here up to the edge. So you can see now I've got to basically bring that back probably an inch into the center. Virtually nothing here down to that edge there. We do want an almost point at that edge at the back there. Obviously has to blend out. So we'll start off with a virtually like a massive radius there. And by the time we get to here, we'll end up with what's probably about a 70mm radius, maybe a 50mm radius. Yeah, I've got a lot more sanding to do. Fun stuff. Fortunately, the rest of the rear clip, to be honest, isn't too bad, but the front, I wasn't happy with these particular sides, so I knew this was going to take a time. Anyway, yes, tomorrow we'll be putting the brackets in to actually make the front clip pivot on the radiator frame. The radiator frame is now welded, so I should make the two mounting brackets go in here. I've got to make some, I can adjust the row joint in and out, but I need to make the nut slider up and down. So basically I get some form of adjustment to, sorry, the captive nut, make it slide up and down, so I can have some up and down adjustment as well as left and right, in and out. Make it easy to line the clip up. The features on the side here, if you haven't seen the pictures, basically we've like undercut the hole under the side of the headlamp. It gives us a nice horizontal surface here, and then basically we'll fit the dive plane and the fixings to the dive planes you'll never see, because you imagine you're going to, most of the time you're down here, this is only going to be like 4 inches off the floor, you'll never see the fixing. So we'll put a sympathetic radius on here that will pass any form of legislation, but then basically when you get to the track, you can just bolt your dive planes or canard fins, whichever you want to look at it, around here. These pieces here, I'm experimenting with some minor shapes to basically produce some vortices off the side here. We'll see how that goes. Styling's probably more important in some respects to how they look. So both sides are the same now, they're cut out. Just radius that corner, that's in. Simple things to make. This basically this piece here, and even this sheet that would have gone into there, just were cut from flat sheets. We basically drilled some fixings in here and put a stop there, pushed them up to the stop, bent this around, and squeezing in here, just about see. I put a load of tape, as you can see here, put a load of brown parcel tape, which fiberglass doesn't like sticking to, which is great for separation. You don't have to worry about waxing the bloody board. So put a load of parcel tape on the floor there. Once we had that shape where we wanted to, then basically, just to make it easier to sand, I basically, this outer surface there, this grey surface there, was say a flat sheet. I literally just bent it into shape, held it in with say modelling glue, just arts and crafts stuff, taped the floor, and then basically put a layer of filler over there just to make it easy to sand, and then basically laminated onto the tape, laminated the top edge, so we secured that to here. Once that was done, then cut out this edge here and laminated into the corner. So it's pretty simple and flat. So I don't have to worry about trying to make this curve. Literally just made it out of already made like 2 layers of CSM on some gel coat that I'd done yonks ago. I think there's some pieces here. Oh, here you go. This is a bit thicker. But basically, it was just a gel coat with fiberglass laminated onto a sheet of aluminium, which you can just about see sort of the same kind of mottled finish you'd get on a nice flat sheet of 6061. Yes, done the corner. So, question is the wheel arch return vent, or the venting from the arch. There's a couple of possibilities. I'm still playing with the idea. We can have nothing and just leave it open, which is option 1. Option 2 is you can use an aero profile like this, which is basically like a light aircraft wing stay. We can then put that into there just to hold the splitter, and we can either angle it for the body, or we can angle it sort of for the exit air. Put that in there and just leave it completely open. Or the one that I'm kind of leaning to is this post here. It'll have to removal anyway, because there's no way I can mold that in one piece with a sill. It's going to be impossible. So it would always have to be a second piece. So this piece is removable, but we'll make a nice kind of shaped exit to here. Then we'll have a turning vane inside it. Now the turning vane itself will basically go past the inside of the tyre. So if you can imagine, the inner tyre wall will be kind of prior to that. So any air that escapes from the side of the radiator here this way, it has a clear path basically to go past the side of the wheel, and it can then get caught. Obviously this is all going to be sort of sectioned off anyway. The air can get caught, tucked behind there, and it doesn't interfere with the wheel so much, and hopefully it turns it around. Effectively from here it turns it around and puts it more sympathetic to the body. But basically, instead of trying the air exiting this way, we want to try and curl it back into the body a little bit. So that's option 2. Back to the flat pieces of fiberglass here. That would actually be bent out here a little bit, and has a bit more of a curve to it. We chopped off of here again, did the same thing there with the lower section that was there, and did the same thing again. Just laid a little bit of body filler to sort of kind of equate to the Bondo gel coat, and then laminated on top of that. This is still going off, so which is why the tape, you'll still see the tape on the board, and then it'll just be easy to lift off. So that's the mods there. Wheel arch mods I'm going to do later. I'm just going to cut them out for the moment and just have a relief hole, and then I'll style and model them individually at a later date. Just want to get the main part of the clip done. So that's on the front end. Yes, you can see the radiator fans, which are kind of quite thick. If I can just get them in there, you quite appreciate the fact they're 3.5 inches thick. Now they're 3.5 inches thick, unfortunately, right at the top here. Now most fans, like the motor sticks out in the middle, but because this has a cowl around it, so basically the fan is lifted off away from the radiator by about 1 inch and has a cowl there, so it has a more effective suck, because it sucks from the larger surface area. It doesn't just from the 13-inch area of the fan, it actually sucks from the whole of the radiator. So yeah, there's a few minor clearance issues. The bolt here gets the fan. So yeah, if I take the front suspension apart, it's going to be fun, because I have to remove the radiator, or pretty much just to get at it. So, oh well, hey ho. Packaging's fun. Obviously between the duct and the inside here, eventually there'll be a grill piece here. So this will be at this edge here. At the moment it's like that deep. The grill will come closer. We'll eventually cut it so it's quite sympathetic to, or it's basically kind of almost up to this line here. So the 2 grill exits there will be quite tall. So we'll end up with chopping quite a bit of this depth off at that point. But then we'll make a duct. You can see now between the 2 radiator fans, now because they're ducted to the fan, there's no air that's going to escape between the 2 circular parts of the fan. So we'll basically make a duct that'll go from those circular parts of the fan that'll push it. Basically push the air either side of the nose. So yes, I've got a blank piece here, but effectively the 2 13-inch fans, which I can just about see. Let me curl it over. Dun, dun, dun. Don't know whether you can see that or not. I can't see the screen. So anyway, we're not going to completely block the sides of the radiator off here. We'll block the sides on the inlet intake, so it sort of forces the air into it. So there'll be a sheet here, but effectively the other side there, if any exiting air doesn't want to go out the front, it finds it easy to go this way. It'll go past the suspension, yet again out the side vent, or any excess pressure obviously directly up through the roof, the arch vent. So yes, lots of body mods, and yeah, lots of head scratching on some of the design side of it. Styling's the most awkward. I can get stuff to work, but it's just like the what looks the best. Sometimes that's where it's handy to have multiple people's advice, we say. Yes, old girl. So anyway, next fun stuff, the Holley Hiram manifold. It only misses these tubes here at the top, and there's no plate with it, of about 1.5 inches or 38mm clearance at the back here. At the front's not a problem, at the back to the center crossbars you only have about 1.5 inches. Now I could remove the center crossbars, but that gives me a bit of stability in the back that I don't want to lose. So I really like the fact that the the push load is basically pulling that roof cage, is trying to pull these bars this way, so any suspension compression is basically trying to pull the roof off. We're spreading all of that load from the suspension right into the cage, so it's really good for spreading the load around, so therefore you can have so theoretically the more area you spread the load to, then effectively you can have weaker certain spots. It doesn't matter so much, not that anything's weak, but if you imagine you're spreading the load across so badly, it's all sharing the load. So you don't have to have one point that's super fixed, everything else covers. So I don't want to remove this bar. I could put a double cross, put a cross and then another cross, but it leaves a diamond in the center, and I just don't want to remove it. I kind of want to keep the height down, so drastic measures. A Holley Hiram, emphasis on the word high. Even most muscle cars end up with a roof hood scoop to basically clear it. Now, once you've put a charge cooler on top, which is looking more to me, I'm leaning more towards charge cooling instead of air to air, you obviously add some more height. So nobody does a low ram LS7 manifold that's like cast and off the shelf and cheap and cheerful. The only one they do is like for a twin quad carb thing, and the runners are horrible. It's just like every other carb manifold. It's always a compromise. Each runner is always going to be bloody different lengths. Just to have nice straight runners. And I can shorten, theoretically chop this off if I wanted to, and use the two banks and then fabricate something. But you know what I'm like with billet. So I'm tempted to build two billet side pieces that sort of come with a trumpet to a point, and then make them bolt on and make a new centerpiece. Basically lower the height of this plate down the thickness of this. 1.5 inches at the top here, missing at the back, wouldn't be bad. I can build a plate that sort of tapers up, and then we have the, if you go over the front, we'll have one and then two inlets with the two throttle bodies from each turbo. I don't mind it being low at the back and high at the front, that's not a problem, but I've got to get, good inch or so height at the back clearance, so it means I've really got to lower this surface down. If I keep something that's about a 3.5 inch intercooler, so this makes this about 3 3/4, 4 inches thick, I need to lower that manifold down this thickness to get it down here. Now when you lower that down, obviously these ports go further out, so basically I have the ability now of having, instead of having a 6 inch wide charge cooler there, I can put it out to an 8 inch wide charge cooler. So the bigger you better. Yet again, can't buy a nice one of these 417 Motorsport charge coolers. Now like an idiot, I've got to make one. Nothing like making life hard for yourself, is it? But I've borrowed this from a friend. I've took the ends apart, and how it's built and constructed is really quite simple. Like, it's very nice machining and it's very nice design, but effectively it won't be good for what I want. Now if I drop this down 3 inches, now obviously then the water cooling bars from here are going to get very close to my fuel rails. I don't want to alter the position of the injectors because that's a performance thing. I could lean them in a little bit, but that's going to make it worse. So realistically I want to keep them vertical as they are. So the outlet fittings have got to be probably closer to the ends, and we'll play around with the flow. So I'm playing around with it. We might even end up with a matrix that goes this way instead of that way and have cooling at either end. Having concerns about that is the cold walk comes in here. By the time it gets to that end, you might actually end up having a different temperature spread between the front set of banks and the rear set. So I like the cross flow. I like the idea of the cross flow. At least it's got a lesser amount so you hopefully won't get any difference in temperature between the cylinders 1 and 2 and 7 and 8. So yeah, we've got to play with that. So we might end up with some side ports instead of, sorry, we might have some end ports that feed into the side. Well, we can go for an 8-inch wide by 14-inch charge cooler on that without too much trouble. So yes, that's project 2. This one I can play with in my downtime because I can just play with the CAD when I'm not sanding bloody filler. Anyway, yes, that's about the some of the mods at the moment, but we're pushing forward with this. Reason being is I want the front clip and I want the 2 side sills done to a point I know where the design are. We're going to have to do some for the moulding stage itself. Obviously the sharp edge here, it's no good to mould. We've got a nice flange and everything, so we'll have to build flanges into here. But how we've done stuff before, and simply how we just built this little curve here, it's an old trick with filler and a plate, which I can't see around. Dum, dum, dum. Yet again, not fun. Oh, it's over there. Basically, I just bent an aluminium plate that the shape that I wanted, curved it against here, put a load of filler on the plate, squeezed it up to there, and then a hairdryer until the filler kind of just went off enough, then released the plate. And obviously the plate, yet again, cover it in brown parcel tape. The filler separates from it without too much trouble. So that's how I got that shape, so it nicely forms into here. We'll have a little more of a curve at the top here as well, so it's a bit more, instead of being dead flat, it'll have almost sympathetic curves. Try to make it a bit more sympathetic in comparison to the rear scoop, which I like and don't want to muck with. That's that's good to go. So yes, once I get once that side of the other side there finishes off with fiberglass, it basically goes off. Sorry, I can then separate the front. Once I mount the 2 mountings for the rod ends on the front, then I can do that. We've ordered the clips and the catches for the front and rear clip. So I need to then, I can pull it off the jig. So I can take this off the jig, put it on the floor, put it back on its wheels, do any final jiggery pokery that I want to do with the wheel arches themselves. Once the clips and stuff on, then it's a lot easier to sand and basically line everything up. And the jig will be free. So then I can start on the next 962 chassis because I need to get the chassis up and running, and then I can put the body on that I have upstairs and put it on the chassis, have it all mounted because I need to take tooling from this, and I need to take tooling from the 962, and if I can get that all ready for some time in the summer and take all the tooling in one go, then I can buy a 200 kilogram drum of the correct resin. Probably going to end up with a vinyl ester product. Definitely running vinyl ester gel coats because if you're going to be able to run carbon parts, the epoxy resin you use from Fusion on a carbon part would stick to a polyester mold. So if you use a polyester gel coat in the mold, you'd have to PVA it every time. No matter how much release agent you got, it loves to stick. Epoxy loves to stick to everything. For some strange reason, it doesn't love sticking to itself so much, which is strange, but whatever. Vinyl ester is obviously a lot closer to epoxy than polyester, so it's the recommended tooling gel coat, unless you go for full epoxy, of course, which I'm not going to do full epoxy moldings because I'm not made of money. But yes, and I'm whittling on 24 minutes. Jesus, yeah, I can with it. Okay, there you go. If you've made it to the end, thanks very much. But we want to be able to remake this body in lightweight panels before the end of the summer, and basically have it on its wheels and painted so although it's gloss painted, shall we say, this year, and then I really want to get it on the road next year. So winter project is whenever I get the billet stuff finished. Anyway, thanks for watching. Speak to you all soon.